Welcome into Bills by the Numbers, where we let the stats tell you where the Bills are at. We're presented by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Well, the Bills' 2025 schedule is out, and we're here to talk about it. How favorable does the slate lay out for the Bills to reach the promised land? Steve and I discuss the surprises, and we'll have our one burning question. What was up with all the schedule leaks? Nothing leaky here. Glad to have you with us on Bills by the Numbers. Bills Wall of Famer Steve Tasker, Bills play-by-play man Chris Brown here with you. And Buffalo's schedule for 2025 is a doozy. 5 primetime games in all, 4 national window games at 425, and what looks like a pretty favorable lineup in terms of how their opponents were stacked. What was your first impression of how the schedule laid out, Steve?
You always go to the bye week 6. That's fine. Nothing. I was surprised when I heard that the Bills were widely being regarded as having an easy schedule, one of the top 5 or 6 easiest schedules in the league. And I was like, I don't know, Cincinnati, Baltimore, Philly, Kansas City. And then you get past those, and of course the Bills, if you look at their division, Miami beats the Bills once in a career for some of these guys in Miami. So, and New England's been on the rebuild. Now they're going to be better this year. And the Jets, of course, are in another rebuild. So the division looks like, well, it looked just the opposite last year, but it looks good for the Bills this year. And then you've got the NFC South, which is Carolina, which is New Orleans.
Tampa.
Which is Tampa. Tampa's a pretty good squad. But, yeah, I get it. Atlanta, I get it. It does shape up to be like, you know what, this is going to be, if the Bills play as well as they did offensively last year and their defense takes a full step forward this year, this is a team that's got to have expectations of getting a 1 seed or very high seed and certainly winning the division.
Yeah, for me, I looked at the schedule and I was like, wow, this is pretty favorable. Like, it's pretty favorable. We knew that they had challenging home games. The 3 most challenging home games, Kansas City, Baltimore, and Philadelphia. They're spread out evenly across the schedule. Yeah, you got the Ravens off the rip, but then you don't see the Chiefs till week 9, and you don't see the Eagles until week 17. You couldn't have asked to have your toughest games spread out any better than that. And then on top of that, and we'll get into this in a little bit, 4 of your first 5 games are at home.
Right.
Like, that's insanity sauce. You rarely see that, and I'll tell you just how rare in a little bit, but to me, the schedule outside of the Ravens leading up to the bye week in week 7 is very favorable for Buffalo to stack wins. So let's get into that. The Sunday night opener against Baltimore, a rematch of the AFC divisional playoff, won narrowly by Buffalo last season, 27-25, is a heavyweight matchup right out of the chute. What kind of litmus test do you see that being for Buffalo's revamped defensive front?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's a big boy.
Here's Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. Yeah. Go get him.
It's a big boy matchup. This defense is going to get tested right away, and we'll see how they respond. Even if they get hit in the mouth and give up a couple 100 yards rushing and a bunch of whatever, it's going to test their confidence. That's the matchup because let's face it, Baltimore is going to be storming in here after what happened to them last year in the playoffs.
Bills
when Buffalo
ended
their season on a drop 2-point conversion to tie it up late. All kinds of stuff happened in that game that Baltimore's got to be sitting there going, how do we lose that game? They're going to come in highly motivated and really angry. So if you can withstand that punch right out of the rip, it spells good things for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I think we do have to remember that in week 1 when they play the Ravens, they'll be doing that without Michael Hoyt or Larry Ogunjobi. So the Bills are probably going to be relying on a good deal of their youth
young
that
guys,
has been added to the roster on the defensive front there. You're talking T.J. Sanders, Landon Jackson, Deion Walker. They're probably all going to be getting a lot of time in this game. How do they hold up against what is considered to be a good offensive line? Maybe not great, good offensive line, and a frickin' sledgehammer in Derrick Henry. And then, oh, by the way, you got to deal with the read option madness that is accounting for Lamar and Derrick Henry and being disciplined enough to defend both capably without having any mental errors or busts, as we saw on the first play from scrimmage in the Week 4 game last year. So hopefully it's not a repeat of that episode. 4 of Buffalo's first 5 games are at home. That has not happened since 1993 for the Bills, 32 years ago. That's how rare having 4 of your first 5 at home is. Knowing how Buffalo has gotten off to successful starts, going 3-1 or better in each of the last 5 seasons under head coach Sean McDermott, what kind of springboard can having 4 of their first 5 games at home be for the Bills?
Well, they were 10-0 last year.
At home, right.
At home.
Counting playoffs.
They're tough to beat in this building. There's no question about it. And getting a team like the Jets and Dolphins and the Patriots right out of the gate, I think, is a plus as well. The Dolphins and the Jets are going to be still feeling their way out. The Saints are in a total rebuild. They had their starting quarterback retire out from under them after the draft. And the Atlanta Falcons are in a constant state of rebuild and still trying to get used to their new quarterback. So, yeah, even if they come out and stub their toe against Baltimore, they've still got to be thinking we're going to be 5-1 at the break. They're going to think about mowing those teams down. Now that's the way every team thinks. I mean, even the Jets and Dolphins are thinking they're going to come in and punch the Bills in the mouth too. So that's the way it is. But even as fans, casual fans, there's nobody out there in NFL fandom who's going down these lists, and when they get to the Buffalo Bills on their team's schedule, they're circling it as a win. Maybe Baltimore people have a chance to do that. The Jets aren't circling that and saying, yeah, that's a win. The Miami Dolphins, you think they're going down the Dolphin fans are saying, yeah, definitely the Dolphins are going to win that game. Let me tell you something. In Buffalo, coming in to face these jokers, nobody circles that as a win. So the Bills are no different. They're thinking they're going to sweep it at home.
I think much like last year, where we felt like the schedule was pretty soft on the front end, I feel similarly now. Because, I mean, you're talking about teams that are just trying to get their act together after the Ravens. I mean, the Jets, game 2 under Aaron Glenn as a first-year coach, good luck there. And then Dolphins the next week. We've talked about them on the Daily Show, One Bills Live. I've got them as one of the top 3 teams to implode this season in the entire league. They've got tons of problems, particularly on the back end of their defense, and I believe still on their offensive line. And then you have the Saints, which you've already outlined. They got a whole world of problems. Also a first-year head coach in Kellen Moore. And then the Patriots, yes, established coach in Vrabel, but in his first year getting that thing up and running, where does that sit? I don't think the Patriots are going to be the team in the first month of the season that they're going to be in the last month of the season. I expect them to be appreciably better later. So getting them early and in a primetime atmosphere here, welcome to Buffalo, Drake May. Get ready for the noise. It's going to be...
It's a tough environment. There's no question about it. It stacks up extremely well for Buffalo. There's no guarantees, though. Now, New England, after four games under New England's belt, they're going to have their sense about it. They're going to know what they can do well. And they're going to give Buffalo a really good shot, I think, because this... they want to prove they're on the right track and they're in it. So if they could come out and punch Buffalo in the mouth, maybe even take the lead in the division, their schedule starts out with the Raiders, the Dolphins, the Steelers, the Panthers.
Yeah, they have the easiest.
They could run out. They could run out at 4-0 against Buffalo, and then it's an early season, pretty hyped up matchup, and they're going to have some things to say. I mean, that's going to be a nice game, I think.
I touched on this already, but I think everyone would agree that Buffalo's 3 toughest opponents this season will be Baltimore, Kansas City, and Philadelphia. How advantageous is it to see those games, as I mentioned, spread out across the schedule instead of in consecutive weeks in a gauntlet-like run like we've seen in years past? Baltimore Week 1, Kansas City Week 9, Philadelphia Week 17. They could not be more spread out.
It's good in that you won't meet all of them in some month where you've got a key guy or 3 key guys out for a month. You don't play 2 of those games with the same guy injured, unless you lose a guy for the season, obviously. Yeah. But you're not going to be nicked up with the same guys. There's a chance that you'll be nicked up different places, but most of the guys will be back healthy at different spots throughout the season. So at least you're not going to face them hobbled, the same 3 teams hobbled up in the same way. That's a plus. And Also, the fact that they're at home, spread out, gives people a chance to get wound up for them. For the fans, it'll be great. Other than that, I think it's just a roll of the dice as to how good you're going to be at that moment. Philly or Buffalo could be floundering at week 17.
Or unhealthy.
Or wishing for a bye week because they're trying to get, that kind of thing.
I hear that. At the same...
It is good.
Yeah.
But only because of the injury fronts being spread out as well.
Let me propose this to you then, because I believe it is an advantage for this reason. I think if you look at this schedule, not only are those the three best opponents, but I would say two of those teams, Baltimore and Philadelphia, probably stack up to be the most physical games that the Bills are going to endure on their schedule. And if we think about some of the previous year's schedules that have stacked up, you remember last year, they had Kansas City, and then they had
Niners,
San Francisco,
Rams,
and then the Lions, all in succession, two of which were on the road, including a West Coast trip. You're going against playoff teams consecutively, and that takes a toll. Maybe it's why they don't have enough at the end against the Rams on the third week of that gauntlet-like run, and they lose a 2-point game. Right. So you take that out of the equation. You play the Ravens, you're going to be a little sore for an extra day or two after that, even though it's the first game of the season. You play the Eagles, if you have to play those teams back to back, there's a cumulative effect there that I think goes away having them spread out the way they are on Buffalo's schedule here.
It's also not very appetizing to play a team like the Eagles, who are a physical, big, muscly team, week 17. Because if what you say is right, you're going into the playoffs hobbled.
That could happen.
That stinks. But, you got to take what you get. There are no gimmies in any of this stuff either. So, even last year you get into this and it was a dogfight in week 1 against the Arizona Cardinals.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all in there. There are pluses and minuses to all of this stuff because we can't tell the future. We just know, generalities. I think it is good to spread that stuff out, and you're right. You don't want to play a team like Philly get beat up and have that loss or win count for the next loss the next week.
I do want to throw this in here. We talked about how 4 of the first 5 are at home. There is a stretch in this schedule where they have 4 out of 5 on the road between week 12 and week 16. And even that, Steve, while 4 out of 5 on the road is nothing to sneeze at, it doesn't look daunting because of the short trips that Buffalo has this year, second fewest air miles in the league to only Cincinnati. So week 12 on the road to Houston, it's one of their longest trips of the season. Another road game the next week, but it's in Pittsburgh. And then home against the Bengals before they're on the road again, but it's a quick trip up to New England and a quick trip over to Cleveland. Like, the lack of travel, I think, makes that stretch manageable, even though you're on the road 4 out of 5 weeks.
It's a time change going to Houston, and that's it. Everybody else is in your time zone. That makes
and none of those flights are like more than an hour.
Well, yeah, you go to Cleveland. Pittsburgh and Cleveland, you may as well drive.
Yeah.
Seriously, you may as well bus.
There are no teams closer than those two.
So, yes, that is a huge plus. It is the entire season, and you've probably heard about this from the rhetoric that's been coming out. The Bills have the second fewest air miles in the league this year behind Cincinnati.
Yeah.
It does make a difference. I don't know if it makes a difference on the whole as much as it does every week. You get a little, you don't have to.
I think every player would tell you it helps with their recovery because they're in their beds. They're in their own beds sooner.
Yeah.
More rest, less trying to rest on a long plane flight back from God knows where. I think it makes a difference. So short flights, less travel, better for the team. All right, which opponent on the Bills' schedule do you think could be a sneaky, tough game for them when it rolls around that maybe most do not see as a difficult matchup?
I think you can take your pick of either game, but I think the Patriots are going to be a handful.
The second time around up there?
Either one. I think they're going to be a good. I think they're going to be a good football team.
I think we both think they're going to be the second place team in this division.
I think they're going to be a good football team. Vrabel is as good a game day coach as you'll ever see. And although they're here early, that's going to be hard for them because of the atmosphere and because of however the Bills are doing at that point. I just think the Patriots are going to be a much better football team than they're getting credit. I know they're getting credit. They're getting some kudos for what they've done this offseason and all that. I think Vrabel has the ability to really bring those guys. I think he's going to get the most out of them, like McDermott does here in this building.
Yeah.
So I think either one or both of the Patriot games are going to be difficult games.
All right, I'm going with the Bucs in Week 11, November 16th. I think because Bills fans don't see a lot of the NFC teams, they don't follow them as closely. They may not realize, the caliber of opponent they might be. Tampa won the NFC South last year. They were a playoff team, and the last time they came in here 2 years ago, they gave the Bills a scrap. I mean, the Bills only won. It's a one-possession game. It was like 24-16, 24-18, something like that. And the Bills struggled to win that football game. And I like what they did in the draft. Emeka Egbuka, a receiver for them to kind of add some youth to a veteran receiving core. And they got 2 defensive backs with their next 2 picks, including Jacob Parrish, the corner from Kansas State, who was one of my favorite players in the draft. I think Todd Bowles does a good job with that crew, and I think they're a kind of a plucky team that's going to stretch that game into the fourth quarter.
The Bucs have won the NFC South every year since 2021.
Really?
Yeah.
4
21,
straight?
2, 3, and 4. They got 4 straight NFC South titles.
See, I didn't even know that.
They, the division as a whole has struggled. New Orleans, Carolina, and Atlanta have all struggled. But since 2021, since 2022, what am I saying? That's 20, what am I got? I got the year here. Yeah, 2020 was the last time somebody else won the division.
All right, so last note, bye week. It's in Week 7. That's a little early, but the Bills do get a mini bye after their Week 12 Thursday night game at Houston, where, you get a little mini bye. It's a week and a half. It's 10 days before you play again. Do you think that's enough to kind of help them down the stretch there for the stretch run of the schedule?
Yeah, it's going to help because then they get it's between those first two away games that are in that 4 out of 5 on the road. So getting a mini bye and going into Houston right after you play Tampa Bay here, yeah, that'll be nice. It'll give them a couple extra days, give them a 48-hour break. And, yeah, I like that. I like it a lot.
Okay.
It is like a mini bye, and it gives them an extra. Listen, when you get to that stretch of the season, weeks 12 through 18, if you get just a day, and if you get 2, it feels like a week because the routine is such and the pressure is such and the effort and the concentration is such. If you can take the pressure off for just, a day and a half, it does make a difference.
Yeah.
It does make it. So that's a plus, no question about it.
Yeah, talking to a lot of the players, they relish those mini buys. It's no fun on the front end, but on the back end, their bodies really appreciate it, so hopefully it pays dividends for them late in the season. We pivot now to the numbers game, where Steve will be quizzed on Bills' schedule history. Here we go.
All right.
Question number 1. How many times have the Bills faced the Chiefs since 2020, including the playoffs? We're not counting this season, this upcoming season.
11.
You're close.
It's 10.
It's 9.
Oh, 9. All right.
Counting this year, it will be 10 since 2020. 9 times so far.
It's unbelievable.
It's a lot. Question number 2. Buffalo has 6 games against playoff teams this season. What was their record against the 5 playoff teams in 2024 that they faced? So they play 6 games this year against playoff teams. They played 5 games against playoff teams last year. What was their collective record against those playoff teams last year in those 5 games?
4-1.
No.
There was 5 teams?
5 teams.
It wasn't 4-1. I know it wasn't 5-0 because we played ball. Wait. Is that all games, playoff and?
No. It's just the 5 games season. Against the playoff teams in the regular season.
Oh, got it. 3-2.
They were actually 2-3.
Really? I didn't even
They
think.
beat San Fran and Detroit,
Right.
lost to Baltimore, Houston, and the Rams.
But they played Kansas City, too. They beat Kansas City.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have the win wrong.
Aha!
They beat Kansas City. Hold on. There was a team that wasn't in the playoffs the year before, and that would be the Rams. So sorry. So you're correct. They were 3-2. I stand corrected. Steve is 100% correct. 3-2. Question.
I like it.
Even
I
the
like
game
it.
show host screws up once in a while.
I like it. Thank you for the bell there.
We'll make an amendment there. Question number 3. The Bills will face the Ravens for the 6th time since 2018, including playoffs, this year. What is their record against Baltimore over that span?
6.
And we're counting playoffs.
They faced them 5, and it's going to be the 6th.
The Bills will face the Ravens for the 6th time since
so
2018
5
this
games.
year.
1, 2.
Or I'm sorry. This is the 7th time this year.
Okay.
Wow.
So it's
Chris
6
Brown
times.
screwing up.
Chris Brown.
7th time this year. They've played him 6 times since
All right,
2018.
6
What's
times,
the
so it's gonna
collective
be-
record?
3-3.
You are 100% correct. 2-0 in the playoffs, 1-3 in the regular season.
Yeah.
That's kind of the opposite of the Bills with Kansas City.
We're their Kansas City Chiefs.
And question number 4. What is the one team on Buffalo's home schedule this season that Josh Allen has not beaten?
Cincinnati.
Nope. He has a victory against Cincinnati in 2019. It's the only one he has.
Houston.
Not Houston.
Saints.
It is not the Saints.
Oh, my
He wasn't on the roster yet.
Falcons.
Not the Falcons. Wasn't on the roster yet. Or actually, they beat him in 2021. Here. Last Matt Ryan year.
Does not have a victory against.
Yep. It's the only team on the home schedule he has
Philly.
not beaten. Philadelphia. He is
Oh,
0-2. Lost in 2023 in overtime.
Yeah.
And in 2019, they lost as well.
The 2023 game was an awesome game. I mean, we lost on to 10 to overtime, the 59-yarder in a rainstorm. Bless his heart, the guy.
Yeah, and meanwhile, we had a kick blocked and a missed kick.
That was a great game.
They should have won it in regulation.
Really, really great game. And
The
Bills
only
came
team on the
short
home
end.
schedule he has not beaten yet.
Yeah.
Most
well,
people, that's why I asked that question, because most people think he's never beaten Cincinnati. They beat Cincinnati in 2019. It's the only victory. They're 1-3 against Cincinnati under Coach McDermott. So there it is. Bills fans, get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Just download the app today to play any way you want. Plus, with live betting, you'll get updated odds on games that have already started. Best of all, you get paid your winnings fast. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the Buffalo Bills. Time now for our one burning question, and this is pretty straightforward. Buffalo, as you heard Steve mention earlier, went a perfect 10-0 last season at home, counting their 2 home playoff games with Baltimore, Kansas City, Philadelphia, Cincinnati, and Tampa Bay at home. What do you think Buffalo's record will be at home this season, Steve Tasker?
I think 7-2.
7-2.
I think 7-2. I don't think they can sweep it. Continue that. Nobody's done that. And I think with those good teams coming in instead of playing them on the road, I think they'll be 7-2. They may go 7-2 on the road too, though.
Oh, okay.
Or even better. I think
their road schedule
their road
is somewhat
schedule
weak.
is weak. I like them as much on the road as I do at home this year.
Yeah.
So I think that's my prediction.
Yeah. I kind of like where you're at there. I was going to say either 8-1 or 7-2, and I'm kind of leaning towards 7-2 myself.
I don't know.
Just to give you an idea on how difficult it is to go wire to wire at home unbeaten, there were only 2 teams in the entire league last year that went unbeaten at home. It was the Bills and the Chiefs.
Bills and Kansas.
That was
City,
it.
yeah. Buffalo,
Nobody
Kansas
else went unbeaten at home. Not even Minnesota and Detroit.
Right.
Detroit was like 15-2 or 14-2 or 14-3, and even they had a home loss.
To Bills. The Bills, yeah.
And Minnesota had a home loss. It's hard
hard.
to pull off.
It's
so
hard.
yeah, I like 7-2. That seems to be a sweet spot to come
I'll say
down
it again.
on
I
them.
think the Bills can be 7-2 on the road, or even better. And you go down and you do it.
Well, they only have 8. They only have 8 road games, so let's remember that.
That's right.
So they would be. So do you think they're going to be 6-2, or do you think they're going to be 7-1 on the road?
Cleveland, New England, Pittsburgh, Houston, Miami, Carolina, Atlanta, the Jets. Yeah, I'll go 7-1.
7-1. Okay. So Steve's going 14-3 on the Bills' record this year. Giddy up.
I'll do it.
Giddy up.
I'll go there. Now it's a long season, and who knows? But yeah, they're gonna be.
I'm inclined to go 6-2 there, and
so you go 13-4.
Yeah, kind of like just what they did last year. I kind of see that in the cards for them.
Will that be enough to get a high seed? What's going to be the number 1 seed? You think somebody's going to go 14-3?
I'll admit I'm going to admit I haven't taken a look at the other teams' schedules just yet. I'm going to be doing that over the next couple of days to kind of formulate an educated opinion on that. Because
the Chiefs, it's not going to be easy for them to get there.
Well, their division is better. Denver's a better team. Chargers are a better team. Raiders still suck.
They play the Ravens. They play the Lions. They play the Washington Commanders. Obviously, Denver twice and the Cowboys. So,
they play the Eagles.
Yeah,
and the
Eagles.
Texans.
And the Eagles. So, we'll see.
13-4 might get it done in the conference.
Maybe.
I think a lot of these teams are going to be beating up on each other. And, I think the loss.
Yeah.
The
from
loss
this
figure
end of
might
it,
be a little higher
it's
across
always easy
the
to
conference.
throw darts from this end of it.
Oh, yeah.
But some of these teams are going to emerge, like Washington Commanders did last year.
Yeah.
They were an afterthought for most of the offseason and preseason last year, and all of a sudden, there they were at the end. It's impressive. So there'll be another one of those or two, and one or two going the other direction.
Our closing figure deals with Buffalo's home field dominance of late. As we know, Buffalo went a perfect 8-0 at home in the regular season, 10-0 counting playoffs, as previously mentioned. The Chiefs were the only other unbeaten team at home last season, as we told you, but since 2022, the Bills have the best home record in the NFL, 22-3 over the last 3 seasons at Highmark Stadium. Hello. That'll do it for this edition. Be sure to watch us on the Bills YouTube channel or subscribe on whatever podcast platform you use so you know when our next episode is out. Because when you need to know about the Bills, you need to check Bills by the Numbers. For Steve Tasker, I'm Chris Brown. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you next time, everybody.